Thank you. So I usually just like to start off talking, or just asking, if you could describe a little bit about your short-term and long-term responsibilities with your role. So just about, as a faculty member, what kind of tasks and responsibilities do you find yourself the day-to-day dealing with, and also, while you've been here, some things that have carried over the years.
Okay. I mean, I think it's pretty generic. Research, teaching, advising, and probably, more one-to-one with students than is often visible. I mean, that, and especially at this time of year. But I think there's a lot of that you could characterize it as advising, but it's just sort of there. And it is surprisingly time-consuming. But I think overall, my job is kind of generic in terms of what I'm supposed to do.
In terms of the formal responsibilities that you have.
Right.
Do you find yourself, either currently or in the past, involved in more informal work as well?
Well, I guess I don't quite know what would be informal work. So, I also direct a cluster in the Center for Study of Slavery and Justice on race and medicine and social justice. But that has a certain formal status. So, I do various types of things like that.
So that would be, perhaps informal isn't the best characterization for that type of work, but that kind of stuff that's outside of your formal capacity as a professor in this department, or whatever department affiliations you have.
So I'm in two departments. I'm in pathology and laboratory medicine, and then I'm in Africana studies.
Yes. So is your current involvement with CSSJ, does that have to do with either of those positions, or is that something that you came to?
It really is because of my research.
Okay. And what kind of, you said you lead a program or a department or?
A cluster.
A cluster.
Yeah, it's a research cluster, but a cluster where faculty who deal with questions of race and medicine get together and talk.
Got it. And it's primarily junior faculty, tenured faculty, across the board? Postdocs?
Yeah. In fact, we just hired a postdoc.
Oh, very cool. And it's a research cluster, as you mentioned, and as I've come across it in different departments, the focus of research clusters tends to be a little different. So is this meant to be programmatic? Is it meant to be research producing?
I think it's really just at this point, we'll work that out, but at this point it's contributing to people understanding interdisciplinary perspectives on the problem of genetics and race.
The newer, not newer, but the more current conversation around the genomics.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And race. Got it. And then in terms of your department itself, other folks have talked about service work that they've engaged with. Is that something that you found, yourself engaged in? I imagine.
We have to.
Yeah. Is it something that, how long have you been here at Brown?
A long time.
A long time.
Decades.
Is it something that you've seen you were more involved in post-tenure years, pre-tenure years, or something that you've been pretty consistently involved in?
I think pretty consistently. Level? It just probably the particular things differed. So be admissions, could be pre-tenure, things like admissions committee, but I think it's been a steady. There's a certain consistency to it. I do, try not to get overextended with service too. Of just kind of doing.
Fine.
Hi, Catherine. Excuse me. Yeah, you went.
Pause. Start. Option. And we're good to go.
Okay. So I think I try to balance it and just keep it consistent.
Yeah.
But I also do different things.
Got it. And then, in terms of ongoing campus things right now, there's a whole lot more, at least in my experience, I've been here now 2 years, it seems to be this changing current in talking about diversity and inclusion. Has that been something that you've seen in your department engaging with at all?
Which department?
In this case, I guess we'll do one department then the other. So you're the pathology department.
So I think this is probably why I do want to be anonymous. I was going to say I don't care. I'll say anything, but I would say biomed has been less. There hasn't been as much discussion, I think, as some departments have really had fostered discussion among faculty. Yeah. So there's little bits here and there, and I'm sort of I'm also in it's a med school department, and there's that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, I mean, I haven't been involved in any discussions about questions of diversity in the med school. In Africana Studies, ironically, even though it is extremely diverse, there is discussion and there's a plan, and it's taken seriously. So, I mean, I work on race in medicine, so I'm interested in sort of the epistemological dimension that is not completely mapped onto representation. So, I mean, I think representation is critical, but it doesn't necessarily bring epistemological, because the professionalization process kind of messes with that. So, so I teach about it in the med school. There's been a lot of student activism about diversity in the med school in particular. I think because the students go through all their classes together, they're very bonded, and so they can organize in a different way. And I've been teaching courses over there, sort of initially volunteer, and now my chair has let it become a part of my teaching load. But it should. I think if you don't actually have those discussions at the department level, and ongoing, and but it has to come from the leadership, and so in biomed our leadership is different.
I see. So
we're under a dean of medicine.
Oh, interesting.
So not under the dean of the faculty.
And not even, but you still have department chairs, or is it still?
Department chairs, but they're also different, so they're long-lived, like 20 years.
I see.
Whereas on the campus it tends to be 3 to 5 years. So it's quite different, biomed and the campus.
Fascinating. So would you say that you've identified the leadership structure, the structure of, not necessarily particular leaders or anything like that, but the length of leadership and the way that it's structured within medical school and your department as one thing that contributes to these conversations not being had? Is that an accurate characterization? I
don't know. I don't know what... I don't want to impute anything. All I can say is that the conversations at the department level could be more robust.
I see. In your experiences that you've seen, in Africana, you've seen how these conversations have happened. Is it through observation of the conversations or engagement on those committees? Like, have you sat on those, on those conversations?
They're full department.
They're full department
discussions, yeah.
And is that not the same way that...
I mean, there'll be a mention,
okay.
but I don't think the dean has said that I see, and that's significant in itself, right?
Yeah.
So we got a document in biomed. I guess a small committee drew up the diversity document that's on the web, and we just basically got it with a couple days to approve or not to approve. But so that's how I'm saying it's been fairly top down.
Yeah, got it.
So not from the bottom up, which
has its pros and cons.
I'm not sure there's any pros. I don't see if you don't get the faculty involved in those conversations, they're never going to understand it, other than if somebody's being PC at the university now.
No, that makes sense. So in terms of, You said a small.
And they don't in the mid school.